students, in this session, let us see the various methods of sampling techniques which will be used during the data collection of transportation survey. So, as we already know, when the data has been collected for transportation planning surveys, it involves the collection of data from large population. I mean to say that we need to take the large number of vehicle volume surveys or large number of household interview surveys, and when you do the registration number plate survey, we need to conduct the survey among large quantity of the vehicles. It is not possible for us to take the data or information from each and every vehicle. So we have already mentioned that the sampling technique will be assorted when the data has been collected for the transportation planning surveys. So now here we'll look into what all the various types of sampling techniques that are available and which can be used in the transportation planning surveys. So first, what is a sampling procedure? So selection of the proper sample size is a prerequisite to our sample survey. We can define the sample as the unit in which some part of the larger population and which is specially selected to represent the whole population. For example, you want to conduct the household interview survey in a study area where the population is 10,000. It may not be possible for us to collect the information from all the 10,000 households. So instead of collecting the information from 10,000 households, we will collect the information from 100 household. So what data we will collect for this 100 household, which will represent the characteristics of all the 10,000 household. So now here the 100 is the number of samples that we have chosen. So when the sampling is done, we need to keep it in view the four important points. So what are the units which comprises of the sample? The secondly, what is the population which the sample seeks to represent, and how large should be the sample, and at last how is the sample need to be selected. So we will address all these four aspects in the coming be selected. Okay, so that's what are the units in which it comprises. The first point what we have is how the sample needs. So first thing is, so now that can be taken from the sampling frame. So sampling frame is nothing but from where you are going to collect the sample. It is identified the desired survey population and selected the sampling unit. It is very much essential for us to obtain the sampling frame from which the samples can be drawn. For example, the information can be drawn or the samples can be drawn from the electoral roll, the block list or list by the utility companies, for example, electricity service connection or the telephone dictionaries, the mailing list, local area map, census list, or society membership list, motor vehicle registration. So when you take any of these information, we will get in one particular study area how many number of individuals are there, how many number of people who are residing in that area. That information you will collect. So out of all the individuals that we get, how the sample has to be drawn from that. So that sampling frame can be any one among the sample has to be is the sampling methods, how done sampling procedure has to be done. So the objective, we already know that sampling is to take the representative population which will representative samples, so which will represent the characteristics of the entire population. So there are so many methods available for the sampling procedure, and the most frequently used methods which includes the probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. So now, and the probability sampling can be further divided into simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, multi-stage sampling, cluster sampling, and the systematic sampling. So in addition to that, we have some other sampling methods which will be used in the transportation survey, which will be based upon the non-probability sampling, so therefore that will not be highly recommended. Okay, so those methods includes quota sampling and the expert sampling. So we'll discuss one by one how the samples will be collected using the various methods. Out of which the and next is the simple random sampling. Okay, now discussing the procedure for the sampling techniques. So out of which the sampling techniques we are discussing on the types of probability sampling. The first method here what we have is the simple random sampling. So what we have to do is, you can see here we have a population of size 100. So when the simple random sampling is done, all the units has to be assigned some particular value, and you have to arrange it all in the ascending or the descending order. There has to be a systematic arrangement of all the population units. So now, for example, I've said that we have total 100 number of population. So now, out of which the 100 number of population, let us say I need to collect the sample of 10 members. So the total population of what is given for us is 100. Out of 100, we need to choose a sample of number 10. So now in the random sampling, what we have to do is just randomly pick any 10 numbers out of all the 100 children. So how you can do is just write a number 1 to 100 and put it into a box. Just randomly pick the 10 chits in that. So whatever the numbers you get, from those unit you need to take the sample. For example, here you can see we have arranged the numbers from 1 to 9 and we have randomly picked those picked numbers are 2, 14, 32, 33, 17, 41, 66, 62, 72 and 99. So now the sample has to be taken, or the survey has to be conducted with those household whose numbers are bearing with 2, 14, 17, 32, 33 and so on. Of population. Okay, here we have not done any stratification. We have just mixed all the population and we have taken 10 samples. Method we The second method, so this is a pictorial representation. We will randomly pick the individuals when we do the simple random sampling. The second method had 100. We have the stratified random sampling. So it is also a random sampling, but here we will follow a stratification. First, we had that sampling is done. First, we have to divide the entire population into the various categories. So now, out of all the 100 population, we have to divide it into the male and the female. This is just an example what we have taken. All the 100 population out of 100, I have divided in such a way that first 40 are female and remaining 60 are male. So when the random sampling is done, irrespective, so you can see here when it is done, so 1, 2, totally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 female has been chosen, and whereas the another 5 samples are from the male category. But when the stratified sampling is done, what samples we will take, that should be in proportionate with the size of the units what we have. So now out of total population, we have 40% of female and remaining 60% of male. So when the samples are taken, we should take 4 number of units from female and remaining 6 has to be taken from the male. So that is what we will do. So when the samples are proportionately taken with depending upon the various units that we have, like 4 units you can see here, we have chosen number 2, 14, 17 and 32, which is in the category of female, and remaining 6, 41, 62, 72, 55, 66 and 99, which is from the male. So here when the random sampling is stratified random sampling is done, first divided into the categories, and then the sample has to be drawn based upon the proportionate of the unit size. The next method, so you can stratify the example here. So we have the total population. Now the total population is divided into the stratum first. So what are all those stratum? We have divided into 3 stratum. The first stratum we have considered as a male, second the female, and the third stratum is the children. So when the samples are taken, sample has to be taken from the male as well as the female, and also from the children. So this is how the sampling will be done. The next method is we have multi-stage sampling. So this is also one of the random stage sampling. So the multi-stage sampling is done when you need to conduct the survey among the large population, entire population. For example, if you want to collect the details from the entire country as a whole, so it will be difficult for us to collect the information at one single stretch. So now, to make our job easy, to collection of data easier, and also analysis of data what we have collected, to make it simple, we need to divide first into the various stages. Okay, so now as a first stage we will divide the entire nation into the states, and the samples from the total population of the state will be collected. And in the second stage we will divide states into the local government or the area, and samples has to be drawn from those local government. And in the third stage, dividing local government into the census collectors or the districts. Fourth stage, divide the districts into the household, and sample has to be taken. And last, in the fifth stage, they divide the households into the individuals, and the samples has to be collected. So now when the samples has to collection from the individuals of the household, which will represent the characteristics of household. And all the household here, the characteristics will represent the entire characteristics of the districts. When you aggregate the details of district, you will get the detail of the local government areas. Again, that is how you can aggregate all the data, and you can get the characteristics of the entire nation as a whole. So here, when the data has to be collected on a large area wise, divided into the stages, and the next, after dividing into the various stages, the sampling has done using either the simple random sampling or based upon the stratified random sampling. So the next method we have the cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is a little variations in the Next and the last method of sampling and the random sampling is we have it as the systematic sampling. Okay, so when the systematic sampling is done, we will follow one system on how the sample has to be collected. For example, when the registration number plate survey has conducted, so we have collected the information of all the vehicles whose registration number ending with 5, or say the registration number ending with 0. Okay, we are following some system to how for the data what we have collected. So now here, when the systematic sample is done, we will select any ith unit. Okay, so that's what say you can arrange. We have already arranged the population from 0 to 100. We have stratified into the male and female. So now when the sample has to be taken, we have taken in such a way that all the values which is a multiples of, the numbers which is ending with 0, 4, 14, 24, 34, 44, 54. So like the units have taken in such a way that the bearing the number which ends with number 4 has been collected. And these individual household, the bearing the number ending with 4, that will be interviewed and the details will be collected. Okay. Multi-stage sampling. When the samples are taken, we are first divide the entire population into the various clusters. For example, when you are collecting the details of the entire country, make each and every state as a different cluster, and then the sample has to be taken from each and every cluster. So now the total population, as you can see here in the picture, as divided into the clusters or nothing but a group. Okay, so we'll make it into the difference. There are 5 different clusters. So now when the samples are drawn, the sample has to be taken from every cluster of the total population. Okay, we are not dividing into the stages. Instead, all the states will be divided into the different cluster, and the sample has to be taken from all the clusters. So these are some of the methods. So you can see here we have a range number 1 to 10. We have taken every third individual or the multiple. The people bearing with the number which is having a multiples of 3 has been taken. Now, so that's how the systematic sampling will be done. So all these what the methods we have discussed so far, these will come on the probability sampling. So what is that probability sampling? So probability sampling is nothing but each and every individual in the population will have an equal chance of being selected. Okay, so it is like we don't take any reservations or nothing. Each and every, we will just randomly give the numbers to everyone, and each and every individual will have an equal chance being appearing in the survey. So whereas the non-random sampling method, unlike, we will not have, we will follow some definite conditions will be there. So out of which we have the accidental sampling, quota sampling, and purposive sampling. So accidental sampling, we can also call it as a convenient sampling. So for example, you want to conduct the survey among the people who are traveling in the public transportation survey in the Bangalore city. So when the informations are collected, you have to travel across all the networks in the Bangalore city, and the information has to be taken. But what the surveyor will do to make the job simplified, for example, he will be assigned that he need to interview any 100 number of passengers traveling in the bus. Okay, but the 100 number has to be chosen from across the all the routes in the Bangalore city. But to make his job simpler, what the surveyor will do is he'll just conveniently, as per his convenience. So maybe in the route which he regularly travel, he just take the information from 100 passenger in that particular place. So that is what, so this is a convenient sampling of, to make our job simple and make it convenient for us. We are randomly or accidentally taken whoever passes in front of you, or whoever come across your point of study area, study point, you will conduct the interview and you will take the information. The second type of non-random sampling is we have the quota sampling. So when the quota sampling will be done, as the name indicate, here we will have the reservation. First, divide the entire population into the group based upon the interest. Okay, and then after this, apply the accidental sampling technique until the required quantities will be obtained. Maybe when you collect the details, maybe we are going to interview the we are trying to find the difficulties in the public transportation buses of old people. So then what we have to do is we need to inquire with those people who are aged over 60. The detail has to be collected from them. Only then we will get to know the what difficulty they are finding with the transportation facility. So now we will have one reservation among whom the detail has to be collected. That will be there. So based upon that, the sampling will be done. And at last, we have the purposive sampling. Okay, so purposive sampling will be done for a specified, to get the information about the specific characteristics, and only it will be for a limited number. Okay, maybe for an example of specific bus route passenger, etc. Maybe I want to improve the network in the west of Cord Road. Okay, so then you must conduct the interview among those passengers who are traveling in the west of Cord. So we are having a purpose, we are having an objective, and what information we will collect, that should be intended to serve the planning purpose. Okay, so this is how the sampling can be collected using the non-random sampling methods. But non-random sampling methods will be usually not adopted in the transportation planning survey. It will give us a lot of error, so it is not preferable to use the non-random sampling techniques. So now you can see here when we have the quota sampling, as you can see here, only we have selected the men who are worlded. Okay, reservations will be done. Means that and when you do the purposive sampling, since it will be done on some for the specific purpose, out of total population we are taking the only researcher, and we are collecting the information from the researchers. Okay, so and when any sampling method is done, usually we will have the error because we are just taking the representative of the entire population, and will be concluding the characteristics for the entire population, which will gives us a lot of error. So as far as it is possible, when the transportation planning surveys are done, try to make the large number of sample units so that the errors can be minimized. And also, like for the errors what we get, we have some of the statistical tools so that can be utilized, and so that we can account or compromise for the errors that can happen during the collections of the data. So anyways, the statistical errors which are included during the data collections, that is not included in the syllabus. We just require the methods of sampling that are adopted. Okay, so with this I'll conclude this session. From the next class we'll start with the new module. Thank you.